Okay, Dave, first of all, congratulations on the new album.
Thank you.
Got a chance to listen to it a few days ago. First thing I noticed right away was that it's much richer than Playing the Angel, for instance. Was that something you set out to do immediately, or did it just come along that way?
We don't really start out like with a particular theme or how we're, you know, how it's going to eventually end up sounding. One different thing about this record compared to Playing the Angel, for instance, and quite a few records before that, is we started out with many songs. We probably, between myself and Martin, we had maybe 20 songs demoed. So you could already sort of get a picture of, if you picked, say, 12 of those songs, you could already sort of get a picture of like the quality of the songs were going to be very good. So it was more a matter of deconstructing the sort of demo arrangements and sounds and starting from scratch. And Ben Hillier, who produced the record, and he produced Playing the Angel as well, I think, you know, for him, obviously, he'd done what he did with Playing the Angel, and he took us a lot further than I think we would have without him. And, you know, his job was to, okay, this is what we did. Let's see if we can open up the sound. I certainly know when I first heard a lot of the songs and the songs that I was writing, I felt that they were lending themselves more to a lot more harmonizing and the use of a lot of voice stuff, concentrating on getting the vocal parts really good, and then layering them with harmonies, which most of the time Martin produces. And then sort of working from there. So a lot of the time, yeah, it's like, you know, what we would do is, we work in sort of blocks of time. So we work for sort of 4 or 5 weeks and take a little break and work again. And we worked between Martin's place in Santa Barbara and mine in New York, where I live in New York. So it took us, I guess, about 6 months, 5 or 6 months, on and off. Mm-hmm. But, you know, the sound sort of, you wait for that moment when one song kind of goes somewhere and you're like, okay, now this is the template for like where we want to bring everything else to. It could be vocally, it can be a guitar part. I don't know, something, quite often it's you know, it could be like a lead vocal or something I do on a song where they've been building it musically, and then Ben will say to me, okay, let's throw down some vocals because, you know, we need to see where we are. This can all happen like in a day. And then if it feels good and the vocal feels good and it feels like it's a good delivery and in a good place, then you have a template again for like, okay, we've got to bring this stuff to here. Mm-hmm. The first song that sort of did that, for me, was probably Whole to Feed.
The one that you wrote, that one?
I wrote that one, yeah. But we started with that one quite early on, so maybe 2 or 3 songs in. And it started to develop a sort of exciting rhythm and sort of a bit of a wild feel about it. A lot of energy. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's a song that's energetic like that, and sometimes it's a song that's more atmospheric, like In Chains.
The 3 songs that you wrote that are on the album, when you were writing them, did you already know they were going to be on a Depeche Mode album, or did you write them a long period ago?
No, I wrote them knowing that I was writing for what would possibly be a Depeche Mode record.
Is that a different way of writing than when you know that you're writing for yourself or something?
Not really, because I write for myself anyway. But I mean, certain techniques are different because the way I have to present it, you can't present like a half-assed idea to the band. You know, I can present a half-assed idea to myself because I kind of have my mind sort of, I'm already sort of thinking about where I want to go with it. So it doesn't matter to me if it's unfinished and not polished, you know, because I'm going to keep developing it throughout the recording of the record. You know, certainly with Paper Monsters and Hourglass, that's how those records were built. You know, one thing feeds off another. But when you're doing something for Depeche, you know, because Martin has always written all the songs really, you know, in the past, you know, first of all, there's a standard of presentation that has to be, you know, achieved, you know, by everybody involved, you know, the producer that you're working with, the record company. And it's not that that would sway anything about the song, but it definitely, people quite often when they hear something, they hear it, even if it's in its roughest form, they'll take that at face value. Mm-hmm. And then people, instead of looking at the possibilities, quite often they look at like the limitations. And only really the writer, the person that's involved in it creatively, can see the possibilities. And if you work with a good producer, you know, they pick up on that. And Ben Hillier definitely did. I mean, as soon as he heard my songs, he called me up and I sent him a demo of maybe 4 or 5 songs, first of all, and he was really very positive about 3 of those at least, which ended up being the 3 that were on the record. So.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine that when you have to present a song or an idea, it has to be, well, not completely finished, but almost finished.
It has to be like a complete song, you know, with a beginning, a middle, and an end, and you know.
But then afterwards, I've seen those little movies with you working in the studio. Yeah. There's a lot of improvisation. There's a lot of thinking going on, and I can imagine that some songs go in a certain direction and then just spin off in a totally other direction.
That's exactly what happens. I mean, you hope that happens. Because sometimes you sort of drive it in the way you kind of almost make a template of the demo. Some different sounds, obviously I sing on songs that Martin has demoed. So that creates a different atmosphere. But for me, the most exciting things that happen are when you start to experiment a little bit and then all of a sudden something, a sound or, you know, something Martin might play on the guitar. Quite often, you know, a sound on an analog synthesizer or something that you're playing around with is an interesting sound, and you try and put it, you maybe take one of the melodies or something and try and make that work with it, and sometimes it's the less obvious things that create the most exciting sort of interpretations of the songs.
Mm-hmm. One of the songs that after just listening to the album once really got to me was Peace, because I did not expect a song like that on one of your albums. Because
me neither, actually. Actually, there was a song that stuck out for me by far out of all the demos that Martin played me. Peace, immediately I was, you know, kind of like, wow, Mark, that's something else, you know. It was head and shoulders above anything else. You know, sometimes that happens, you know, there's one song that it really struck me, and my immediate feeling was that there would be a lot of identification with the melody and the sentiment in the song. And it's more about, you know, the song is, you know, for me, I always take it on a personal level. You know, it's not like, you know, that's, you know, peace and love and stuff like that, you know, whatever. But, you know, I think that does begin from within. I don't think you can achieve any kind of outside kind of expectations when it comes to that, unless you kind of are working on it with yourself and your immediate family and friends. You know, it's your attitude towards that.
So when you sing Peace Will Come to Me, you're actually...
Yeah, I want that to come to me, yeah. You know...
Still got a long way to go, or...?
You know, I have wonderful moments of feeling like I'm in the right place at the right time, and then other times I spend days just drifting around. But I think we all do that, don't we?
Yeah, and it's reflective.
I think it used to be called daydreaming. It happened a lot in school, you know, like a teacher would say, Gahan, what is so interesting outside the window? And, you know, I'd say some sarcastic comment like, well, it's more interesting than what's going on in here, sir. And be promptly sent to the headmaster, which I didn't mind at all. Sitting outside the headmaster's office, like staring into space, you know what I mean? I've always kind of been a bit like that. And, you know, it's actually served me pretty well when it comes to getting creative. I don't know, I love kind of going in. Songs are great for, you know, changing your whole mood. You know, a good song that you hear can immediately change your whole chemistry. You know, I don't find that, maybe movies, some movies do that for me as well. and you know, some forms of other forms of art and stuff. But it's really music that songs and stuff that have always been able to sort of be something that I can relate to, identify with, and yeah, completely within 3 minutes, completely could change your chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I like that when you can do something that can changes your chemistry in 3 minutes.
Well, you definitely did with Peace. I was what I thought was funny in a way, that I was totally in my pieced out zone, and then there's a song right after it, Comeback, which like, you know, grabs you and just throws you in a corner.
Yeah, I mean, Comeback is probably my favourite track on the album, actually. I mean, when that song started to be developed, when myself and Andrew Philpott and Christian Iger were first working on that song. Well, first of all, actually, Christian, I think, sent me this cyclical thing that's always in the background there, that kind of like churning pad part that just rolls over all the time. And I felt it was kind of very gospel-y, and something about it. It was really simple in the beginning. You know, when the band got hold of it, and then it kind of became this big, like, wall of sound almost. But I kept saying throughout the recording, you know, of that track, the linchpin to this song is that feeling of you're just rolling along with it all the time, and you get sucked into it, and you can stay with it, and it's got to wash over you, you know. And I think it goes really nicely alongside Peace, because it's like the antidote of that song.
It is.
You know, sentiment-wise. It's like, I know it will come, you know, and that's really what I'm looking for. It's really what I'm talking about in that song. Mm-hmm. And everybody can, you know, interpret it in their own way, but that's what it is for me.
Mm-hmm. The more songs you make, the longer you've been in the band, well, for 30 years now almost, the harder it gets to make a set list. I've heard you talk about it, how difficult it is. Have you got any idea what you're going to be playing on your next tour now? Do you already know, or are there still fights?
Well, we don't really have fights, but it gets a little difficult sometimes trying to pick songs from older albums. I mean, there's certain songs, it's kind of like with a new record, you know, there's maybe 7, 8 songs that you kind of like look at and this would work really well live, let's think about that. So you try and work with those songs, and that really is your focal point. And then you have your sort of songs that, for me, it wouldn't be a Depeche Mode concert without. You know, your personal Jesus, Enjoy the Silence, Walking in My Shoes, I Feel You, possibly World in My Eyes, you know, what else?
It's been a while since you played People Are People, no?
We haven't played People Are People, I don't think, since that song was actually out. It is not one of our favourite songs. I know it's not Martin's, it's not particularly one of my favourites either. I think, I mean, I've talked about maybe reworking Strange Love, Master and Servant, possibly. I think they would fit kind of with stuff that we're doing now. So, you know, I mean, you want to end up around, we know that around 20 songs usually stretches to almost 2 hours. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I think anything beyond that, first of all, is like too much for me. I put a lot into a show, and I enjoy that, but there is a point where it's like, okay, I'm done, you know. But I don't think Fletch and Martin more, but Fletch doesn't understand that at all. But, you know, I think he would happily sort of play songs all night, because he doesn't really have to do much, but, you know, it's different when you actually have to do something.
You'll be playing in Belgium in...
Sorry, last 30 seconds, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been done 15, last 30.
Good, okay.
Oh, you
Thank you.
To finish up?
Yeah, I just had
30
one...
seconds.
Okay. Very quick. You'll be playing in Belgium in June at the Worcester site.
Yeah.
You've been there a few times. Is there anything in particular you remember about it,
well,
except the crowd?
I've played there on a solo tour, which was awesome. Was with my Monsters band, and that was great. I really enjoyed actually doing that tour, because there was a lot of those kind of gigs that I got to play. You play a 45-minute set, maybe, if you're lucky, which is great, a lot of fun. Took me back to actually very early days. And then you get to watch other bands and stuff as well, you know, because you're not the headlining band. So I really enjoyed that tour. And then in the real early days, I remember we did a show there. I think opening on the same night, possibly U2, or it was a weekend when all that kind of stuff was going on. There was all kinds of people on the bill, but I think it was the gig. I don't know how many years ago that was, but I think it turned things around for us in Belgium. I think all of a sudden there was a lot of people there, of course, and you know there was a lot of people that were maybe the sort of the naysayers, and then we put on a really good show, and people after that it seemed that we were able to play Forest National and stuff like that on their own back. So it'd be fun going back there, yeah.
It will, and there will be a lot of people again.
Yeah.
There will be. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks very much. Thank you.